Hello, everybody. My name's James. Welcome to the fifth and final day of Planet FPL's Correspondent Week. My name's James, and we're kicking off with a big one. Let me introduce you to our Chelsea correspondent, Gary Mantle. How are you, Gary?
Hello. I'm glad we still fall into the category of being a big one for the moment. Thank you.
Quote for the moment, quote unquote. Um, do you remember the famous tweet from Duncan Alexander? Really good with his statos. He has a tweet that he retweets about every month or so, and it says, "In the Premier League, you're always aiming not to be the crisis club."
Mhm.
It feels like at the moment it's you, which is remarkable when you've got a new manager there, mate.
When you've got a new manager and you've spent, I don't know what we've spent over the summer, and I can barely even tell you who we've spent it on because we're just putting out more youngsters for more money than we should be paying for them. And yeah, we're in that regard, we are all over the place. So yeah, I completely buy that we are. I
It,
think crisis is probably a bit far,
yeah,
but
yeah,
yeah,
yeah. No, you're not in a crisis,
it's no, um, it's
but it,
not
it it
positive at the
does feel
moment.
like, yeah. You listen. Whenever you have a new manager, you should be full of expectation, and a little bit of excitement. On the outside, it feels like with each time you play a friendly, and I realize they're friendlies and it doesn't count for too much, but each time you play at the moment, or every time there's a bit of Chelsea news, people are becoming less and less confident about you this season. And it shouldn't be like that at this stage, should it?
No, it shouldn't. And that's true. And that is, I don't know if you mean specifically us as fans, but that is how we as fans feel as well. There's nothing
Okay.
that's happening that's making us think, oh, yeah, actually, this is giving me renewed hope for the season. It's no, it's pretty negative. Um, I'd say flat, but I feel like it's a bit worse than flat. I think it's only flat because we haven't actually started. When you start and if it's bad, then it's going to go downhill pretty quickly.
We can talk about some of this. We did do a podcast for those who are unaware. I guess it was in June, was it, Gary? After
Yeah.
Enzo Maresca was appointed. So we're not going to kind of rehash over the stuff that we've covered off previously on Pochettino's departure, etc. What have you seen so far in the friendlies from Enzo Maresca to give people who haven't an idea of what we can expect, say some nice things in terms of tactics and philosophy and style?
Um, Tactically, but I think three of the four he's lined up pretty much exactly the same as he did for Leicester. I think that is going to be uh, his general starting point. So that is the four that becomes a three at the back and the one inverts. And the goalkeeper has been moving into the sort of defensive line as well. And then two midfielders in front of that, wingers really wide, and then one central striker. And to be honest, a lot of our attacking players actually looked all right. We've got individual players who we've seen and think they might do all right, and then there's some that we've seen and thought, oh, it's still not going to happen. For let's just say Mykhailo Mudryk, for example, who's played in
So
his
really gone
position.
and picked out on one player.
Yeah, but I mean, just as in, if you don't fit in the position in the system, then this is probably part of the issue with like the way that Maresca does things. If you don't fit in the position that you're supposed to play in, he's not going to adapt around you. You're going to have to adapt around him. So if we've not seen it, then it's bad news, basically. The only game that he changed it was City, where we didn't go for the inverting and we played Gusto as a sort of left winger, which was a bit strange and it didn't
So
really
it's more like
work.
a starting back three, was it? Or
Yeah, basically, because we played, I think Lavia and Caicedo both started, and then Enzo also started. So there wasn't, and I think Nkunku and then Dewsbury Hall as well. They all started. So it was it was a bit of a strange lineup. So it was I think it was Lavia and Caicedo with then um, Enzo, Dewsbury Hall in front of them, and Nkunku in front of them, and it didn't work. So I don't think we're going to see that again.
okay,
That time we had Mudryk on the right and Gusto on the left, which in itself sounds strange,
he
and
does.
it went as well as it sounds like it
But
would
it's
go.
also, with respect, it's okay to try these things now, right?
Absolutely, that's it. Yeah, so it is fine in terms of that, and he's that's not how we've normally been lining up, and we have looked all right attacking wise. And Kunku's been playing as a sort of attacking midfielder, and we've been getting the best out of him in that role. But we've had a guy whose name I can't pronounce, Gui, Mark Gui. I
Well,
don't know.
I just think that basically you went to buy this fellow and you just thought it was Mark Gay and ended up
Yeah,
with Mark Goo because that would be the really sort of Chelsea thing to do. It's Mark Goo,
this
isn't
is
it?
it.
I think.
So, yeah, and it's Guiu. I don't know how to pronounce it. But he's been starting every game at centre forward, and I'm pretty sure he's not going to start at centre forward for us. Nicholas Jackson's been unavailable, I should say. And now we've signed another guy whose name I don't know how to pronounce for different reasons, or we're about to sign Omorodi and the guy from Atletico.
So, right. Let's
So
do this while you've mentioned that. Conor Gallagher, time recording, it is Thursday afternoon. He's going to Atletico Madrid. Is that right?
he's arrived in Madrid. They've done pictures. He's signed autographs. That's almost certainly
It's
happening.
happening bar a failed medical, basically.
That's right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right. So you're probably accepting a lesser fee than what you wanted because admittedly, he's not going to end up at a rival like Tottenham or something like that. Fine. Okay.
Mhm.
Out of sight, out of mind. That's probably better for the fan base that you're not got to play against him next year from perhaps your emotive feeling on it. But in
It is, but
return,
also for him as well, because he doesn't want to go to a rival to Chelsea. Remember, the boy is a Chelsea fan, a proper
we
Chelsea fan.
we know. And in return, you're getting a player who, on the brief, and admittedly, it's only 2 minutes I did reading up on him, just sounded like you were buying Nicholas Jackson again.
Basically, the guy that's played one season in La Liga. He played one game against Atletico, scored, so Atletico bought him because of that game, and then loaned him out immediately. He went, I can't remember which club he went to. They finished mid-table anyway. I think he scored 9 goals, and now we've signed him for pretty much the same fee that we've sold Conor Gallagher for. So we didn't want him to go for free, but we've basically let him go for free, but in exchange with a striker who we hadn't heard of a year ago.
Okay. I want to talk transfers in more detail, but I feel like we're jumping the gun. I just want to conclude on
Yeah.
Maresca. You tweeted on Wednesday night that this had a feeling of AVB about it.
Mm. So this is, and I didn't mention this before because you said to be positive. Our defence has been abysmal.
Everybody
The
knows you didn't have to say it.
No,
Joking about it all week.
I know, and so the other night was better because we only let in 2 goals, and normally we're letting 4 goals. But and that was like including to Celtic, and I know that Celtic they've already started their season. I think it started last weekend, or it's starting this weekend. But anyway, they were ahead of us. But my problem wasn't that we let in the 4 goals; it's the fact that Maresca, his main thing is that he's a tactical manager and that we're supposed to be organised, and we did not look in the slightest bit organised. We had one of the goals, I think it was the first goal. You could see our players looking at each other, going, "Am I supposed to go here, or are you supposed to go here?" And this is also then why we seem to get done in behind quite a lot, because it feels like the players are focusing on this man-to-man system. So, oh, I'm supposed to look at him. I'm supposed to look at him. If someone runs from deep, well, who's supposed to look at him? But they haven't been encouraged to think for themselves. They've been told, this is the system, this is how we're playing, this is who you're marking. Well, what when the situation changes? And they look confused.
But isn't that
There's
also, there's two sides to this. Isn't that again also he's trying to implement a newer philosophy with clearly a higher line? I think it's fair to say. And tactically, particularly maybe even off the ball, especially, quite a movement away from Pochettino. That said, the other side of that is you could see within 10 minutes of watching Ange Postecoglou at Tottenham that this was going to be wildly different and they were going to work to a certain way of playing. And listen, there were faults in Tottenham last year, quite clearly, particularly defensively as well. Are we not seeing that with Maresca's Chelsea?
well, according to him, he's not trying to implement a high line. He doesn't understand why the players are playing a high line. He says he thinks it's a hangover probably from last season, i.e. Pochettino, or maybe previous
So he
seasons.
doesn't want to play a high line.
No, not as
Okay.
what it came across as from his interview was certainly not as high as we're playing, and he's not quite sure why we're playing the line as high as we're playing it. But he's the manager, so he's the one that needs to sort it out. So maybe he's just as confused as
What
everybody else.
what I don't get, especially with that, is you've had so much change of personnel over the last couple of years. I could completely understand it if it was like, Terry and Kay who have played together for all these years, and then someone comes in and goes, right, play on the halfway line is going to be very different to perhaps what they were used to back then, right?
Like
But it's been,
AVB. That is what he did. He got us
yeah,
to play a high line with John Terry, which
but
doesn't
this is
work.
now the opposite.
Yes, with the
So,
opposite,
so
but with the
how,
same
so
result.
why did you mention AVB? Are you mentioning AVB because you can see this going tits up?
It's because, yeah, I mean, that's what I associate with AVB defensively is like, I've got this philosophy and this is how we're going to play. And even when you're watching it and it's not working, that was how we continue to play. And if you play against teams that manage to exploit it, so the worst one for him was against Arsenal at home. We let in 5, and it was 4 of the goals were exactly the same goal. You've got like Theo Walcott running against John Terry, like who's obviously going to win that. And watching the second Madrid goal the other day was pretty similar. It's a runner that's coming from deep,
Is
and
this the one where Badia Shield walked back towards the line?
that's
Is
the
it?
one.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, that's it. Because yeah, he's and I don't know. It's a friendly. I'm not that like I'm not having a go at him for that. I think there's a lot of frustration because he's not the only one that's been done like that, and they're all like, yeah, it's as if they're probably going to need time, or maybe they're just not buying into it at all. I'm not sure, but it looks wrong. Whatever it is that we're doing, because it's what everybody else is seeing is just the goals. But I can assure you this is happening quite a few more other times as well that aren't necessarily resulting in goals. The teams are just getting in behind us. Also, I've heard it's partly the pressing in midfield because Lavia has played really well, but that's not really his game. And Caicedo's not really been fit. He's played like a couple of 45s and he's looked a bit off the pace. So maybe that will help. Maybe when Caicedo comes back in, that can start the improvement from there. But at the moment, it's a mess defensively, absolute mess.
Okay. Brute question. When we do this time next year, do you think Enzo Maresca will be in charge?
Yeah,
Okay. So it's not that bad.
no, it's because I think that the guys that have put him in charge are going to come the end of the season twist the statistics to be in favour of him and show that he's doing a good job. Because I think this is the guy that they want. They
Okay.
didn't,
But if
although
you
they appointed
have
Pochettino, he was never there like long term, whereas Maresca is there long term.
if you have a Graham Potter season,
Mm,
um you're going to get anarchy at the football club.
yeah, that's right.
What will happen? And which I should probably be careful using a word like that at the moment. But I think you know what I mean. The fans are going to lose their mind. Who's going to get targeted here? Is it going to be the owners, or will it be it's another manager that's not good enough?
I think we've now reached a point where it will have to be the owners. I think it has to be. It can't just always be the manager. Plus, I mean, we didn't actually think that Pochettino had done that bad in the end, but it can't. We're not completely stupid, and we're just we're already like pretty annoyed, let's say, at the transfer policy that we're just buying people that we've never heard of, that we don't know if they're ever going to play. That it's just a churning factory to maybe make money in a couple of years, and I don't know. It's not heading in the direction of I want what's best for Chelsea now. So I think we're a bit fed up of that.
I think you feel like you're losing a bit of identity with your football club, I think. And I get that. It is so extreme. I've never known this anywhere ever before where you get, it's like, oh, here we go on a player, and it's someone you've never heard of. And you lot in the Chelsea Slack channel are like, oh, not again. It's like normally
Uh,
when you're getting links for a player, and especially even if it is someone you haven't heard of, you're like, I want to research about, I want to know this, that, and the other about. You lot are like, stop. Stop. I've never
yeah.
known that where a football club's fan base are like, stop buying footballers. I want to come back onto some of them transfers in a second, but like just briefly, what is a good season for Chelsea here?
When you say good, like what acceptable? I don't know. It depends on who you're looking at, like from whose perspective you're looking at it. I think if we qualify for Europe at the moment, I'll be like, yeah, fine. Hopefully we can build on it.
That if we sat here this time next year and you're in the Conference League again, you'd be all right with that.
Yeah. Um, Yeah, no, actually, yeah, I would.
Wow. That's big to hear that when we're so used to you as a fan base. And I realize you have adjusted quite well in terms of understanding a longer term principle where this is going. But it's been such a win now philosophy for such a long time with Chelsea. And I guess it feels like some of the reasons that Pochettino was moved away was, well, it's not going to happen with what they'd looked at
Yeah,
statistically. It's
yeah,
like
and he did have
we've
his
discussed it.
flaws,
It's
but
like mixed messaging
yeah,
all the
that's very
time.
much it. Yeah, exactly, and that's why they can twist narratives to whatever they want, which is what I think they'll do at the end of the season. And just because I understand what they're doing, it doesn't mean I agree with it. We were quite happy as a fan base with our win now philosophy. We've never been the kind that have said we want to play a certain way, like Spurs do or like West Ham do. It's like we just want to win. Mourinho basically implemented that philosophy at
Of
Chelsea,
course.
and but it's carried on from then. And even then, we had managers that played good football, like Ancelotti. But what we remember is that we won stuff,
Okay.
and yeah, that was how our club was until 2 years ago.
Okay, quick fires on some of these ins and outs then. But you can spend a little bit longer on the first one.
Is it? Have you heard of this guy?
Not
No.
quite, but
Yeah.
maybe it might
Okay.
be. Conor Gallagher going. Like, how
Yeah.
do you feel about it now
I'm
that you know
happy
it's
that he's
happening?
gone. I'm really happy for him because he didn't. I thought the contract offer I thought was you could tell what they were trying to do. 2+1. When did Chelsea ever offer a 2+1 year contract? That would meant if he'd signed his contract, the next midfielder whose contract was going to expire was Conor Gallagher, because everybody else has got at least 6 years. So you could see what they were trying to do. All they wanted to do was protect his value so they could sell him anyway, and he doesn't deserve that. He's he's at a time now where he's like quite highly thought of, particularly for his age. Now, if he spends a year or two not playing, that's only going to come down, and then he's probably not going to go to a regular Champions League club or not one that's in one of the big five leagues. So I'm really happy for him. I think it's a good move. Didn't want him to go to a rival. He didn't want to go to a rival. So I just want it like done because they're going to treat him. They've already treated him badly. So I'm happy.
Okay, quick word on Thiago Silva.
It was time that he had to go, but absolutely loved what he did for Chelsea. We needed to move on from him. We will miss his experience, but there comes a point that you have to just say, yeah,
Okay.
that's done. I would have liked him to have been replaced with someone that also had experience, but
Um,
that's not going to happen, is it?
so a couple of players have moved to clubs also in the Premier League. Just want to ask you about them quickly. Um, Ryan Goulding's gone to Leicester. I don't know anything about him. Is he likely to be involved for them? Do you know?
Wouldn't have thought so. I don't know much about him, to be honest. I think he's quite young. He's
PSR transfer?
almost certainly, yeah.
Okay, well, I suppose a lot of these are. Ian Matson to Villa.
Mm.
Think he'll do well?
Uh, I don't know that he'll definitely start, to be honest.
Lee
But he's not,
does. You won't
does
have
he?
heard it yet. But
No, no.
Lee, Lee wants to start with him in FPL basically.
Well, that's up to Lee because he likes his shiny new toy, doesn't he? But he's like, Matson's a good player. He never got a chance at Chelsea. They'd only ever looked at him as a cash cow, basically. We can make money out of this guy. This guy's got quite a high profile. He's come through our youth system. Yeah. I think he's a good player. I think he'll probably do pretty well at Villa.
I mean, you've
Um,
managed to get people say, oh, how did Chelsea keep spending money? It's worth remembering here. Between Ian Matson and Mari Hutchison, you've nearly put 60 million on the books. Near
mm,
enough, basically.
yeah.
You probably won't have seen much of Hutchison, I'm guessing. He's gone to
Um,
Ipswich.
So I watched him. I watched a couple of Ipswich games because of him last season, just to see how he was getting on. And one of them was like a League Cup game against Wolves, and he looked good every time I watched him. He looked good, but I know it took him a little bit of time to actually get properly into the team. But he was growing as the season went on because he's still really young. Um, I mean, he was basically an Arsenal youngster that we took towards the end of his sort of youth career. I think we paid 5 million. We've made what 20 million or whatever. So they're happy. It's not someone that was ever intended to be in the Chelsea first team, as far as I can tell. So that's
Okay.
it.
Let's do some of these incomings then. Tosin Adarabioyo on a free transfer from Fulham.
Mm. I think I don't think it's the worst signing, to be honest. Part of the reason they've signed him is, I don't know if everybody knows, but he came through the Man City youth system. So he's got that connection that we seem to be looking for. He's probably worked under Joe Shields at some point. He might go on to be all right. I don't think he's going to start on game week 1 because he looked a bit off it in the City game. But I mean, he's against Erling Haaland, so But then the first game is City
Against Erling Haaland. Yeah.
there
Okay.
you go.
I've heard rumours that Trevor Chalobah may go to Fulham to replace Tosin.
That's exactly the kind of thing we'd do, and then we'd think that we've done really well out of it because we got money and they didn't get money. But no, if you asked any Chelsea fan, we would much rather Trevor Chalobah was playing for our club than Tosin Adarabioyo. And there's nothing against Adarabioyo at all. Trevor Chalobah came for our youth system. He wanted to play for Chelsea. When he scored on his debut, he broke down in tears. It's like he loved the club.
Yes, against Crystal Palace, I remember.
That's right. And this is what you as fans like to see. And we like him, like we think Gallagher was bad. He was even worse. They just said, you're not coming on the tour. You're staying at home. You don't even get a chance to prove yourself under a new manager. I think it's fucking disgraceful, to be honest, what they've done there.
Why don't you say how you really feel?
I know.
I assume he's going to leave.
Yeah, they're going to force him out. He will go, and he needs to go. He should be playing. At the end of last season, he sort of forced his way into the team. He got an opportunity when there were a couple of injuries, and by the end, Pochettino wasn't going to drop him. Then he scored against Tottenham.
Okay. Amari Kellyman.
What 19 million. Apparently, his value on transfer marks before we bought him was 500,000. I don't know. That's a PSR thing. I don't know what. I don't understand why we're doing things like he sell Maatsen for 37, 38. But then half of it we're spending on him. So we've basically sold Maatsen for 17 million.
I would say that 500,000 ranking is well under. Was he worth 18 million? I don't know. But I mean, the one thing PSR as a whole has done is inflate transfer fees, by the way.
Yeah.
But
I don't think he's played.
The market value.
I don't think he's played at all on our pre-season tour.
My worry for him is he's come in exactly the same way, basically, as Carney Chukwuemeka. Am I right in saying he hasn't had a minute this pre-season either?
No, he has. He hasn't played in the last 2 games. He has had. He's played in. He's had some minutes in the first 2 games, and he hasn't played in the last 2 games. And I think you can tell more as they go on, because another one, for example, that hasn't is Ben Chilwell.
Okay, I'm going to skip Mark Gou for the minute because you bought him. Keenan Dewsbury Hall. Have you seen yet or not?
Yeah, he's played a bit.
Yeah.
He started against City. He came on in the last game against Madrid, and he went back into his midfield role, which then pushed Nkunku into the centre forward role, which does not work for Nkunku. He can't play as a lone striker. And Dewsbury Hall against Club America. That was the second friendly where we won 3-0. They beat Villa, by the way. He set up one of the goals and actually played quite well. And he played well in terms of getting into good positions. And Maresca was saying, yeah, this is a guy that understands his system, which he is, for obvious reasons, that he played for him for a year. I'm not excited by him coming in.
Maresca signing or club signing?
Oh, absolutely Maresca signing. There's no way the club would have been. Like he's in his mid-20s. He's not just out of the youth team. He's like, I think he's 25.
I mean, at least this is whether you like it or don't like it, you went and bought someone's best footballer.
Yeah, Leicester's best footballer. I know. And that's only because they sold James Maddison the year before. Because that's what people have been saying. They said, oh yeah, he did all right in the season that they went down. Which, I mean, I think he scored either 1 or 2 goals. And it's like, it's not that you can't have good players in your lower half of the Premier League, but I never looked at him and thought, oh yeah, this isn't like, I was going to use Eze, but they came 10th, didn't they? So I can't. But this isn't like a standout player from a lower league club. It's like, yeah, he was all right.
He scored quite a lot of goals last year, Gary.
Yeah, in the Championship. We're supposed to be trying to come top 4 in the Premiership.
He might help you do so, mate. Who's Renato Vega?
So he is like a left back that inverts into midfield like Cucurella, who hasn't featured in the last 2 games because we've played Malo Gusto out of position there instead. So he's not going to play, is he?
So
Again, another one just
I
adding
was
to the line.
confused because I thought he was a defender when you signed him. He was the
Mm.
one Fabrizio put up that really daft photo of him. He looked like a football manager regen.
Yeah.
Um, I thought it was defender, and I was just looking for your pricing list, and he's put in as a midfielder, which
Oh, is
confused
he?
me.
No, he
Yeah,
sort of plays that defensive midfield. He can play both, from what I've read. It's sort of like
I mean, I
a
hadn't got as
really
far as looking at page 2 of your list of players, but I did manage to do it today, actually. Um, okay, who's Caleb Wiley?
we signed him recently. He's a fullback, I think, that will just I think he's American. He'll go out on loan. I haven't seen him at all.
Who is Aaron Anselmino?
Don't know. I think that's oh no. I do know. He's the one we signed today. Yeah. I think you're trying to see if
We
I've
signed him
been
today from
honest.
Boca
I think
Juniors.
so. And he's going back on loan to Boca Juniors for the year. So he's spending the
Oh,
which
actually, he does say
I
that he's
think
gone
for
back on loan.
them, yeah, which I think for them means until December, if I have my thing of how their season works right, but I don't know.
Yes, I think that's correct. And Philip Jorgensen is in as a new goalkeeper.
Mm, yeah.
All right, I'm going to come back onto him in a minute because the FPL listeners are going to be dying to talk about Palmer and Nkunku. So
Hmm.
let's do that. Do you think, Gary, you will start your FPL season with either player?
Yes.
Both?
No.
Which one?
Nkunku. I'm actually surprised that Palmer's ownership's as high as it is.
You can take that conversation however you want. Off you go.
So obviously he's had a price hike, which we knew that was going to happen. It's probably come in a little bit more than I thought he was going to come in at. Um, in real terms, if you take it that you have to spend 4.5 on a midfielder as a minimum anyway, and last season he was 5, that's a 12,000% increase that he's had because he's now up to
You took the time
10.5.
to work that out. Well done.
It's not that hard, is it? 6 times. Anyway, so he's not played at all in pre-season. He's not on our tour in America, and it's not quite the Chalobah situation. Obviously, this is because he was at the Euros, and so neither has Mark Cucurella. But I don't know. I still don't know for sure where he's going to play. Like, if you look at our starting 11, if there's one person you're going to take out, it's the centre forward. So is Cole Palmer going to start playing the centre forward? I don't know. If he does that really suit him? Not sure. It would make more sense for him to play in Noni Madueke's position, but Madueke is playing very much as a winger, and Palmer doesn't want to play as a winger. Palmer wants to come inside. If he plays centre, he wants to drift to the right so he can then come back in. Very much where he scored his goal for England in the final. That is his perfect position. That's where he wants to be, and the system's not set up like that. So it's not that he's not going to get in the team. He's going to have to get in the team. He's the best player we've got, but is it going to work for him? Is he going to be as effective as last season? There's too many question marks to go for. He's the second most expensive midfielder, isn't he, after Salah? But we're not the second best team, and we don't know how he's going to fit in.
This is so interesting. You're absolutely right. He's your best player. I think we'll all agree with that. But I agree with you. I don't know on what I've learned, and you've obviously had the benefit of watching these preseason games. I don't know where he goes in now. The logical to me feels like as almost like a right-sided 8-10 hybrid, almost kind of like a
Mm.
high Odegaard version. I don't know if there's then a mistrust of him off the ball in that sort of position. And also what that means for whoever would be the left-sided, which I'm guessing is going to kind of be Dewsbury Hall, who he used really high at Leicester, or Nkunku, who you definitely don't want to be going that deep. The wide players feel like they're going to be hugging the touchline quite a bit. Would that be fair?
Mm-hmm.
Particularly as you move into a back three shape, so they very much need to do so. Could he play as a false nine? Yeah, I'm sure he could, but I don't foresee that particularly as the solution. Is he definitely getting this team? I can't believe I've asked that.
He has to though, doesn't he? Because that's no, I agree. Because there isn't a position for him because the position that he plays doesn't exist in Maresca's system. But we've got a friendly on Sunday, so we'll find out what we do with him on Sunday. But if you want him to play in that attacking midfielder, where we've already got Nkunku's been playing that role, and he plays it very differently. And for the way that we've been playing, Nkunku plays it better than Palmer would play it. Because if we're building out wide, Nkunku's the guy that's going to arrive in the box, well, Palmer is involved in the build-up. Palmer's not the fast guy getting into the box. Palmer's the guy getting on the ball and creating.
Okay.
Whereas we're using Nkunku as more of a goal scoring attacking midfielder.
2 questions. One, do you think Cole Palmer will start game week 1?
Yeah.
Do you think that will be as the number 9?
Yeah. I think it probably will.
Which see, now this is the reverse. We're talking about Cole Palmer potentially playing to centre forward. That's going to have a different impact on what people hear from that. And that could be very good, right? For fantasy purposes.
Could be. Or it could completely stifle him. And he might look completely lost when he's got 2 centre backs that are mainly just concentrating on him.
Okay. Cole Palmer is owned by nearly half the game currently.
I know. I saw that this morning. I was surprised.
I think that's a reflection on him being the highest scoring player in the game last year. Because I don't think he's in 50% of the teams that I'm seeing on social media or the FPL community. And that's not even to say he's a bad pick. What would you say to those people that do own him at the moment?
I think there's players that I'd much rather have. I think also just see what else you can do with the money, and you'll probably like the look of it a lot more. Because I'm really just, I don't know, it's not on him at all. I think he's amazing. Every time you asked me about him last season, I didn't even like sort of wax lyrical over him. I just said, just go and watch him play because he's going to prove it, and he's incredible.
So
But
there are 5
I
players that
haven't.
is value basically within sort of like the million, right? So you've got
Mm,
Saka, who
yeah,
we're very confident will start game week 1. Heung-min Son will certainly start game week 1 unless there's an injury to these players. And obviously you've got Foden and De Bruyne are going to play yourselves. There's an element of doubt about them too at 9.5. Palmer's the most expensive. So you also get from that element wanting to start with him. You've got the great fixtures after the Manchester City game. If it doesn't work, Saka, Son, Foden, whatever your pick is, I get that from it. Absolutely. It would be
I don't think
easier to
our,
come off him than it will be to get to him.
I agree with that. I don't think our fixtures are that incredible. They're good, but we're not. For example, we're not playing against a promoted team. Now, you would say that they're right now they're supposedly the 3 easiest games in the league, right? But we're not playing any of them in that 2 to 7 period. There's a couple of games that we struggled in last season. Well, it's more than a couple. Wolves away.
Wolves
We've
away,
got
you
Forest at
lost.
home.
Bournemouth
Yeah,
away, you drew. West Ham
yeah,
away, you lost. So from the
yeah.
first 3 away games, which look fine on paper, there's 1 point there from last season. Doesn't mean you
Forest
can't
at
get
home. We
Forest at
lost.
home, game week 7, you lost. Brighton at home, you won. Palace at home, you
Yeah,
won
and Palace we
very,
won.
very late on.
Yeah,
Those are the
that's right.
great fixtures. So what you're saying
Yes.
to me there is there's 7 points from the corresponding fixtures from last season of those 6. Have we got that right?
Something like that. That sounds about right. Yeah,
3,
Palace,
6,
Brighton,
7.
Bournemouth. Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's it.
7 points from 6.
Hmm.
It's gonna. After that, you got Liverpool, Newcastle, Man United, and Arsenal. If you only get 7 points from those 6 this time, mate,
And I like to think that we'll do better at home to Nottingham Forest, but then there they are with their fast attacking midfielders, and I've just been telling you how we struggle to cope with that, particularly the high line, which we're likely to see when we're at home. And who knows? Maybe we'll see exactly the same as last season. Maybe we'll see worse than last season.
so you don't think that's a great run of fixtures, then?
Uh,
You know what
I
it is?
don't
There,
think
there are all
it's
challenges in there, but because they're clustered together, it is a nice run,
no,
mate.
which it is, and I agree, and that's what I said. I think it's a good run, but it's not like a right. There's a gimme there and there's a gimme there. Like, who do you look at there and go, oh yeah, we're going to batter them or we're going to batter them? There's not, is there? So do you need to have spent the money on Palmer?
Yeah, but
Not
Palmer battered
really,
the majority of the league last year, mate.
which is right. But if let's say if you've got Palmer and you've not got Salah, I'd say try and find a 2 million to get Salah.
Well, you could do that by saving 4 million within Chelsea's team, no?
Yeah, no,
Talk to me about Nkunku because I mean I think on a longer term strategy, for me he's the best 6.5
I
because of
don't
the
see a reason not to
capability
go
of
for
what
him.
he could
Yeah,
be. That's my
no,
opinion.
I agree. And even on a short-term strategy, I don't see a reason not to start with Nkunku personally. He's playing as attacking midfield. He's playing 90s quite a lot as well. We've been trying really hard to get his fitness up. And if he doesn't play attack midfield, then we move him to centre forward. If we can get someone somewhere close to him, which we might be able to do. Because I should caveat this as well. I should say that our last two friendlies have been against Man City and Real Madrid. Now they're two of the best teams in the world, so it's not that comparable to when we're at home against some of these teams that we're playing against.
Can I also give something for a little bit of balance on that? Do you think the team Man City had on the pitch is stronger than the team you had on the pitch?
No, of course not. But they've been coached for quite a long time by the same manager, and he's one of the best coaches in the world. And it's the same with Real Madrid. He's one of the best coaches in the world as well. And we've got a guy that's never managed a top flight game. So there is a difference there as well. It might be that in those games that we've got at home, Nkunku does have somebody a bit closer to him. It could start looking different in other ways. Maybe the wingers manage to get a bit further inside. I don't know. They do drive inside, to be fair, but it's usually when we're on like more of a sort of turnover counter-attack type thing.
If I said to you now, one of Palmer and Nkunku wouldn't start game week 1, who would you say was most likely not to start? So you think Nkunku is more likely to start game week 1 than Palmer?
He's played so many minutes in pre-season that I can't see why we would be doing that and then not starting him in game week 1.
Well, part of that
I haven't seen Palmer at all.
Well, but part of that will be that Cole Palmer hasn't been there, and
right,
neither's Nicholas Jackson, right?
That's right, because Jackson's injured. I don't actually know what's up with him because I thought we'd have seen him by now. But if Palmer's not been there, then that means that Palmer hasn't had the opportunity to get match fit. I know that Nkunku is match fit. He's now been match fit for longer this season than he had last season.
Okay. I'm not unsold on Nkunku. I think the biggest downer on Nkunku would be at the moment would be I don't know where he's going to play. I don't like investing in players for fantasy when I don't know where they're going to play. But for me, it would be if it's any position that can get him into the position where he can finish chances, he will finish those chances. I think he's outstanding in front of goal.
Right. But what we haven't done with him is we haven't moved him out wide. We've only played him in
central areas,
central attacking midfielder or a centre forward. So he's always going to be in and around the penalty box.
And he's clearly not. He's not going to end up playing like a deep 8 or anything.
No, of course not. That's it. So I don't think there's that worry with him personally. I think it's quite low risk with potentially quite high reward.
So would you share the view that he's the best 6.5 midfielder?
Yeah, I think he is.
I think so, yeah. I think there's a case that, people only looking sort of first 2, maybe even sort of first 5, considering there's 3 away games in there in City. But I think longer, he's not a player I want to be chasing. If it turns out he's shit, fine. I feel like he's the one, particularly if he scores against City opening day and he plays well, you know what's coming. If you're sitting there on the 6.5 that's done badly, yeah, there'll be so much interest in him. Particularly
you'll have to make the move.
Particularly as well if you imagine that Palmer's blanked as well, possibly.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. Yeah, I think I couldn't justify the 4 million Palmer over Nkunku at the moment. People want to go both. That's fine, but you would probably say, Gary, have you watched Chelsea this summer? Probably.
Yeah, and I would. Again, there is the caveat. It's been against Man City and Real Madrid. We've got a game Sunday, so let's see what happens on Sunday. We're at home to Inter Milan.
Yeah,
and we'll see who lines up where and who gets how many minutes and everything like that. Because Nkunku, by the way, is also the second penalty taker behind Palmer. So if Palmer's not on the pitch and we happen to get a penalty,
Nkunku would take it.
Nkunku's going to take it.
Okay, fine. There is a lot of players to cover here, Gary. So I'm going to try and keep this fairly quick fire on midfielders and your opinion on some of them. Raheem Sterling.
He's played all right, actually. I think this system is kind of suiting him. He's been playing out on the left. Wouldn't start with him, but I think he's most likely to start in that position for us. Even if it's not game week 1, from game week 2, he's going to play, I think.
Okay, Noni Madueke.
He's played well, but the problem there is that it might be Palmer that plays instead of him. But Madueke has looked, well, as I described him, 50% excitement, 50% exasperation. And for that's quite good for a Chelsea winner.
Is there any reason to consider starting with Sterling or Madueke ahead of Nkunku?
No, not at all.
Okay, fine. Non-fantasy question. How's Romeo Lavia doing?
Pretty well, actually. When I first saw him, he looked a little bit off the pace. I can't remember if that was the first friendly, which was Wrexham. I forgot we had five, or if it was the next one. But actually, as it's gone on, he's got better and better, and he played a really good ball for, I think it was Madueke's goal in the end against Man City, where it was they sort of won it back in midfield and straight away has released it like forward, which is we've not had a defensive midfielder probably since, if you wanted to say Fabregas in that position, that could do that kind of pass. So he's been probably our biggest positive of pre-season of the Tour of America.
Okay. My understanding, Gary, is that Nicholas Jackson's possibly got a chance of being involved at the weekend, but he's going to be behind the others, obviously, in terms of fitness. How much would you want to keep an eye on him? A lot of us obviously owned him in the run-in, and he did absolutely fine, actually. 7.5, which same price as Solanke at the moment, as an example. Feels like a no, doesn't it? If you were to, even if Solanke assuming stays at Bournemouth, I think I'd prefer to have Solanke if I was comparing that, even if
I would,
Jackson was fit.
but yeah, even if Jackson's fit, we don't know that you're going to be a 90-minute man. You know that Solanke's playing every week for Bournemouth. I think Jackson doesn't take penalties, and his main strengths aren't goal scoring. As I said, I think he had a decent enough first season last season. I've got no problem with him. I want him to be starting at centre forward, but doesn't mean that I pick him for fantasy.
Okay. Lukaku is your player.
Yeah, he is, because we can't flog him again. We did our usual a month or two ago where we said we're not going to consider a loan, just like we said last season before we loaned him to Roma. It was last season. Yeah, no,
What's he doing? Is he training somewhere on his own, or what's he doing?
he doesn't train with the first team. He hasn't trained with the first team for, I think, 3 years, 2 years.
Okay.
I don't know, but they don't. Yeah, he's no.
Armando Broja's back from a very successful loan at Fulham.
So he has been on the pre-season tour, and he didn't get off the bench against Man City, and he didn't get on the bench against Madrid. He was just completely not in the squad.
He's behind
Um,
Goo here, right?
yeah, yeah. Like they want him gone as well.
Might Goo start the season here? I
I
guess
don't
this is
think
I
so.
guess this is becoming a possibility, isn't it?
Don't bank on it though. It
I
is a
mean, I
possibility.
mean,
But I
if he
think they
starts again
signed the
against
guy.
Inter on Sunday and he started
Hmm.
every preseason game, got to start thinking it, haven't you?
If he starts, plays 45, and then Palmer comes on for the second half and plays that position, plays 45, then I'd say it's because Palmer's going to start game week one. They signed this Mark Gui for what, 6 million, because he had a really cheap release clause, and that's the reason we decided to buy him. And now we've suddenly found him in our team as the starting centre forward. It's not. I don't think it's a long-term thing. From what I've seen of him, he's all right. Um, I wouldn't mind him hanging around as a backup, but he can't be our starting centre forward.
He's
Jackson's better than
young,
him.
is what I'm saying. Was he
He's
19?
very. I think he's only 18. I think he
Okay.
might only be 18. He's very young. Yeah.
Okay. I think that's one to watch
Mm.
because if people want to go 3-5-2, you could consider it as your third forward, as we might come
Mm-hmm.
on to. There's every chance you're not going to block yourself with free Chelsea. Anything you want to say on Fafana or David Washington?
Well, oh, as in Datro Fofana.
Yeah,
Um,
sorry, I didn't clarify. Datro Fafana.
I don't think he's appeared in pre-season. I think they're intending to loan him. Washington again. He hasn't been used in the last couple of games. There's more names you could pull out. There's no point. They haven't been getting off the bench
Okay.
or like on the bench.
A couple of weeks ago, it was if we knew he was going to play in goal between Sanchez and Petrovic, this would be blinding. But if they buy a new goalkeeper, that'd be good. Oh my God, he's coming at 4.5. And oh shit, I've watched Chelsea in pre-season. What am I going to do? Who's going to start in goal for you, Gary?
I don't know, but I can tell you the best Chelsea goalkeeper to get.
This is
Bettinelli.
4.0.
Yeah, Bettinelli. Get him, leave him on your bench. He's not going to play. He's not going to go on loan to a club where he might let in goals or anything like that. No, you can't start with a Chelsea goalkeeper in reality, because I don't know. We don't know who's going to start. The chances are that whoever starts on Sunday against Inter Milan is probably going to start against Man City. So in the game against Madrid, Jorgensen played, and the game against City, Sanchez played, and they both played 90. So he is having a look at both of them. But even if Sanchez plays against Inter, and then starts against City, he could be out of the team after 3 or 4 games as well. Particularly because we are going to have a Conference League match at some point, and one assumes that the other one is going to play. And if it's been going wrong and then the other one plays and he does all right, so
It might change. Okay, I get
there
your
you
point.
go.
I think it's fairly certain to say it's not going to be Petrovic though.
No, he didn't go on the tour. I don't think he did. They said he was injured, and seemingly I don't know if they want to loan him or sell him, but no, he hasn't appeared at all. It's between Sanchez and Jurgensen.
You can absolutely see the appeal of why someone would want to get a Chelsea goalkeeper here with the fixtures after Man City. You can see that. So if you get it right, there might be some form of reward there.
Yeah, okay. I mean, not from what I've watched in pre-season.
Yeah, your eyes told the story. He basically saying so the 5% of you have got Sanchez, Gary's saying sell, basically.
Yeah, I wouldn't bother.
Okay, defenders. The only one with ownership over 3% is Marc Cucurella. I would suggest that's possibly a legacy of being outstanding, in fairness, for Spain in the Euros. Is he going to go straight in your team, do we think? Not your team, but Chelsea's team.
I would have thought he will, because Reece is banned for the first 3 games, and Reece has started every single pre-season game, so that doesn't help. So it doesn't look like we're exactly planning for him not playing. I think Cucurella is going to come straight in, because he's then going to be the one that inverts. With that said, we've been playing Gusto there, so if there's any slight doubt over Cucurella, he's not going to have an issue playing Gusto by the looks of things at left back.
So you think you might invert Cucurella against City?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's what I'm expecting him to do.
For those who heard the Oscar Bob conversation on the Man City podcast, I suggest you listen back to that maybe. Reece James will then do that role when he comes back. Is that what we think? So, but from the right-hand side, obviously.
I do, but he didn't do it the other day. He played more as one of the 3 centre-backs. Right. So what we did, which you don't often see, is we had Gusto at left back and Reece James as right back, and then Badiashile and Colwill as the centre backs. But both of them are left-footed, and you rarely see that. But that's because when Gusto goes into midfield, they shuffle across, and so you've got then a left centre back. So
Gusto did go into midfield from that position.
Yeah, in the last match he did, not in the previous match. But Gusto was playing as the inverted left back against Madrid, and as a left winger against City. So the last 2 matches that he's played on the left.
I'm trying to think here. Cucurella is, if you want to do that and insistent on doing that, Cucurella with James absent, it will be the most natural to do that, particularly against City.
Yeah.
So then I'm going to guess you're playing a centre-back at right-back, technically, rather than Gusto.
That's right.
Have I got that right?
Yeah, which I expect would be Fofana, Wesley Fofana.
Yeah, that show Fofana would be interesting. So Gusto, even with James suspended, probably doesn't start game week 1. Have I got that right?
Yeah, but I wouldn't say that he definitely doesn't start game week 1.
No. But what I mean
is, it's not like last season, where if James wasn't there, we knew Gusto was playing.
Yeah, there'll be some that will have identified Reece James is suspended. I want to start with Malo Gusto.
No, it's definitely not as simple as that. 100% it's not as simple as that.
I completely understand that. Okay, that's interesting. Ben Chilwell went on tour, not a minute. Have I got that right?
No, he did appear, but as I sort of said to you before, I pay more attention as the tour goes on. So our last 2 games will be more indicative of what we're going to see. And he didn't get a minute in them. Neither did Chukwuemeka or Vega. So Chilwell bearing in mind that we played Gusto at left wing against City, and Chilwell didn't get a minute, and he was on the bench and he's fit. So
if you had to start with a Chelsea defender, who would you go for?
Depends if we're thinking who do I think is most likely to start, is probably Levi Colwill.
Okay.
He's 4.5. I think. Because Badiashile missed the previous match, apparently because of muscle fatigue or something like that, which in itself was a worry because it's pre-season, so shouldn't have kicked in yet. But Colwill's been playing quite a lot, and has got that versatility. So he's quite good for not he doesn't go into midfield, obviously, but as
Yeah,
in playing the centre back or left back kind of
I
thing.
understand.
Which, funnily enough, against Madrid, they had the other way around, and Badiashile was the one that was further to the left, so Colwill was more the centre one.
Again, in fairness, it's a new manager. I don't mind him looking at these things in games. Sometimes you land
No,
on something, don't you?
yeah, that's it. But I would say Colwill's probably most likely to start. Dizazi, we've not seen. I don't know if he's injured. I think he might be, but he's not going to fit in Maresca's style. He's not good enough
He's.
on the ball.
I was gonna. You're not a big fan of him, anyway. Is
No,
that
I'm
right?
not.
Yeah.
Yeah, like, and it's nothing against him. I like he tries really hard. I just don't think he's good enough. It's basically what it is. I don't. I hope that it's not one of those that turns. If he does have to play, that people don't turn against him because I've got nothing against him personally at all. I just don't think he's good enough to play for us.
Who
And
would
that's,
on that back line of the three, if it's Cucurella and he moves inside, who would be the organizer in that back three?
I don't know. Like, based on
Is it
what I've
is it
seen,
Colwell?
yeah, nobody. Probably. I suppose it probably is. Because Badish feels really quiet by the looks of things. So
Or do these
but
sort
it
of
is
things
not
not
Colwell.
matter anymore?
Well, in theory, they don't, do they? Because that's just the idea, especially if you have a particularly tactical manager, that you should be able to take this player out and put this player in, and it's
But
exactly the same.
but
But we know it
surely
doesn't actually work like that.
you do need reminders, don't you? Right, push up.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, even if it's someone's got to communicate to say, like, right, I'm stepping out, you've got to come with me. You can't have
yeah.
no communication. Someone
No,
has to lead that.
yeah. It probably is Colwell, as long as he's sort of on board with what Maresca's saying. I mean, that's what Maresca's got to figure out. Who is it that's going to do that job for him on the pitch? Um,
I
but
mean,
yeah, probably
I would
Colwell.
say as and when he's back, Reece James was probably going to have to
So,
take up that
and the
role.
reason, and it would be Reece James, but I didn't mention him obviously because we know that he's banned. But so I think that it will be Fofana, Badiashile, and Colwell that are going to play as the sort of centre backs.
Okay. Two questions, of which the second one might have a spin-off to close. One, will you be there in game week 4, Gary? You
What
know
we're
what
doing
that's
game
in
week
reference
four.
to. In game week 4, Reece James, we will be there.
Oh no,
No, didn't think you would be. Who captain game week 1?
um, I don't know who I've got it on at the moment. I think Isak, but it's between him and Haaland. Bear in mind, I've also got Salah in the draft at the moment. Like,
Did you have Haaland in prior to playing you?
yes,
You did. Okay. When you watched that game, did it leave you in any doubt to go and get Haaland?
no, no. Yeah, I mean, it was they played like two. Kovacic played as well, didn't he? But it was like Grealish and Haaland, and then everybody else was sort of younger players, including like Oscar Bob and stuff like that. But Haaland was miles better than anybody.
But certainly captain a ball, in your
Oh,
opinion,
certainly
game week
captain the
1. Yeah.
ball. Yes.
I mean, look, coupling the fact that he just got a hat trick against you, the way you've been defending in other games, the fixture was 4-4 last year, in which Haaland got some returns, although some of them were, you might argue, were a little bit fortuitous. Yeah, don't necessarily overlook him. I would still intend to captain Isak in 1 personally, but
Which I think I probably will as well.
yeah,
But
the closer it
yeah.
gets, the more Haaland captainers you'll see. Absolutely. Go on in, Gary. Confirm. In fact, I'll do this. Predicted game week 1 lineup. You can tell me how wrong I might be here. Sanchez in goal.
We'll find out Sunday, but I think yes.
Okay. From what you said, I'll go with that. So Fofana, Colwell, Badiashile, those two left footers might be a different order, and Cucurella.
Yes. That's what I think, but yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Now it gets really tricky. Uh, Lavia to play, I guess, at the moment.
From what I've seen, he would play. Yeah.
Dewsbury Hall and Palmer.
No.
No,
Enzo's going to play.
I take it
But,
they've all
but
kissed and made up, by the way.
he's been given the captain's armband at points in pre-season. Just like
Okay.
it's
That's
all moved on
that's
from that.
fine. Okay.
But I can't. Dewsbury Hall and Palmer would be so attacking for the game against City at home. That's why I think Enzo Fernandez would play. I think there's more chance it would be Fernandes and Nkunku. But then also could be Dewsbury Hall and Fernandes. And now we've also missed out Moises Caicedo, who I don't think is going to play because he would play in Lavia's position, and Lavia's just looked better in pre-season.
Yeah. Wide. Are we saying Sterling and Madueke wide? Maybe then.
They've definitely been the best two by an absolute mile because Mudrik's been
But
Mudrik.
obviously, I guess Palmer is a particular threat to Madueke.
Yes,
And I guess therefore for you, you would predict Palmer to play the 9.
that's my current prediction because I don't know unless he decides that he does want to start Nkunku there. But even then, that would be so. Yeah, you could have Palmer right and Nkunku centre, Dewsbury Hall and Enzo Fernandez and Lavia.
Yeah. Very confusing. You got too
It's
many
all over the
cooks,
place,
Gary,
isn't
but
it?
you know this already. Where do you
Yeah.
think where do you think you finish?
So every season you ask me this,
Yeah,
and
yeah, you definitely didn't go for first this time.
what I always do is because I'm actually, despite how the last however long has sounded, I'm actually quite an optimist generally. So I always think, what is the highest that I think that we can come, and then that's where I predict us to finish, and that's what I've done again. And I think we're going to come sixth.
You don't think you finished in the top 5?
No,
So you think 6th is near enough
mm.
your best case scenario this season?
Yeah.
Wow. I disagree with that, Gary. I've seen you sack managers in January and win Champions Leagues, mate. You can definitely do
Well,
better than
yeah.
that.
I mean, it helps if you're in the Champions League, doesn't it? But no.
Conference League.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of good teams. I think there's a lot of good tactical managers in the league, which Maresca might prove to be one, but at the moment, I'm certainly not sure. There's like Newcastle, I think, are going to do better. They're not in Europe, which is massively going to help them. I personally think that last season was more like the anomaly for Manchester United than the season before when they came like third or fourth and got in the Champions League. There's obviously Arsenal and City, and then I can't, from what I've seen, I
I
can't
can't,
say
I
that
can't,
I can imagine us
I
finishing
can't,
above Liverpool.
I can't say it. I can't say it. Go on, say it.
Say what? What do you want me to say?
Wait, you wouldn't even mention my club, mate.
No, because I said I think there's a lot of good tactical managers in the league. So why would I mention your club? That's how I that's how I see it. But then remember that what I just said about Chelsea, I do the reverse with Tottenham. So I always put Tottenham as low as I can imagine them finishing.
That doesn't explain why you think West Ham will finish 7th.
I think they've made really good signings, and I think they've got a good manager. I think Lopetegui's a good manager.
Okay.
And I think that where they've strengthened, I think was the positions that they needed to strengthen. So I think they're going to do quite well.
How many West Ham
And they're
players
not
are
in
you starting
Europe.
with in FPL?
No.
Okay. Um, how many of your fellow correspondents you think chipped Chelsea then to finish 5th or higher?
Fifth or higher.
Yeah, better than what you think is possible then.
Yeah, but yeah, because I think in top four is going to be like 0. So fifth or higher, I don't know, maximum, no, let's say 4.
6.
There you go.
Sam Murray. Maybe because you keep buying shit from Brighton. I don't know. Let's put it to you to finish 4th. Lee
Well, it's not as if
Jackson.
Brighton ever came fourth, is it? So
Lee
I don't know why
Jackson,
he
who you
thinks that
dug
they're
out
fourth.
earlier, has predicted you to finish 3rd.
He might be right. He's not going to be right. He won't be right. That puts us top of everyone other than Arsenal and Man City, and that's just not true.
Someone has predicted you to finish 9th.
Oh, who would I think? No, because if I would have said it would have been Sam
I
Murray.
didn't I didn't say I was going to grasp them up. The average prediction for you is 6.25. On a averaged out league table, the correspondence would have you finishing 7th.
Yeah, I think that sounds about right, to be honest.
Below
Yeah.
Manchester United.
I think we're going to be. I've predicted us to finish below Manchester United
You
as well.
have. In fact, it's probably down to that. It's why. Gary, pleasure. I knew this would go on much longer than you and I had planned. typical, but it was a lot to cover there. Anything you want to plug for yourself or any Chelsea content before we finish, mate?
No, you can follow me on X. I've now changed my bio to have the correct handle for you. So I was
And not
accidentally.
some dormant Planet FPL account from about 6 years ago, yeah.
That's right. So
Which is
yeah,
not
obviously
us, by the way.
no. So that's been wrong for 2 years, and then I think speaking of things that have been wrong for 2 years, it's Chelsea.
Okay. Good luck for the season, mate. If you're a Chelsea fan, you might want to get a bus to Clapham Junction and get a train down to Bournemouth. But you might find that Pokerstown station is closer to the Vitality Stadium. How would you get to Bournemouth as a Chelsea fan, Gary?
Just drive.
Thought you were going to say fly. That's a disappointment. But thank you very much, mate. Bournemouth is next up on Correspondent Week, which might be particularly interesting when Neil Grover sees my face and I ask about Dominic Solanke at the time of recording. He is, of course, still a Bournemouth player. Gary, good luck for the season. Cue music, please. Mad Shark.